someone whose opinion cannot be taken lightly. Roopa Kudva, the head of India's largest rating agency Crisil, has earned her stripes working up the ladder of success. When I caught up with her, I began by asking her if she ever imagined she would one day land the top job at the company she only joined thanks to a twist of fate.
Not at all, not one bit. I think at that point the only thing on my mind was how do I get a job in Bangalore. I don't think I thought beyond that. I used to be working in IDBI before that for 6 years, something that I thoroughly enjoyed. But it's just that my husband was moving to Bangalore and I wanted to move with him. And I saw some challenges in IDBI moving me there, and which is why I went and met Pradeep Shah, and he was kind enough to give me a job. But I must say that while there was no ambition, no thought of career, no big game plan in mind when I joined Crisil, other than the fact that I want to be in Bangalore, within a few months of joining Crisil, there was something that told me that this is a company and here is an environment in which I think I can thrive and grow.
It was also a time when Crisil was growing, and it was born out of an idea and it was growing. So did that entrepreneurial drive, that whole atmosphere also create a conducive environment for you to stick on there?
I think it did. Most definitely it did. There was the excitement of doing something new. There was the excitement of working with very young people, all of us starting off in our careers. The entire management team was young. I think Pradeep Shah would have been in his 30s at that point, which was quite unheard of in corporate India those days. The biggest motivating factor at that point, which I think really has defined the DNA of Crisil, was something that Pradeep Shah instituted right from day one in this company, which is that the most important decisions in the company, which was the rating decision at that point in time, got made in an open forum, which means that anybody could walk in and hear the discussion and listen to how the rating was being arrived at, which was such a huge contrast from what I had myself experienced and what I had seen people around me experiencing. Those days we were the new kids on the block. We just did the work and we sent up the work and we didn't know what really happened behind closed doors and how the decisions got made. And it was really revealing and empowering and exciting to feel that you could be a part of the entire decision-making process.
Stepping back a little, you passed out of IIM Ahmedabad in '86.
That's right.
A lot of you who are now CEOs and heads of companies started off in the mid-80s. You know, if you see, this is the generation that's come to its own. What were the triggers? What were the motivators that made you go into an IIM Ahmedabad? Because that's when the whole battalion of women walked into banking in the private sector, at least.
So when you talk of our generation and people who entered the workforce in the latter half of the 80s and maybe the early 90s, there's one thing that always strikes me. I think no generation of people has been as fortunate to benefit from the big boom in the Indian economy that we saw in the 20 years after that. The lift that all of us got, and this is men and women, not just women, the lift that our careers got in that 20-year period, I don't think the generation before us saw. And frankly, I don't think that kind of a trajectory is something that the next generation is going to see. So I think we were singularly fortunate to be in the workforce at a point in time which saw a complete transformation of this country. It was the post-liberalization era. It was new types of companies coming in. So if you look at a company like Crisil, there was no promoter. It was a dispersed set of shareholders. You didn't have a family owning a majority or a significant stake, or one institution holding a majority or a very significant stake. Companies in India at that point in time were were more promoter driven. Whereas here was a company that was completely, and not just Crisil, many companies that came up at that point were completely professionally run. I think their whole attitude to employees, to growth, to entrepreneurship, to innovation was very different. And I think we benefited in many ways from being there at that point in time.
Tell me something, do you think that was a one wave kind of a move? Or do you think those many opportunities still exist for kids coming out, or their trajectory could be as easy as yours?
I think the opportunities for kids today and for women today in particular are higher than they've ever been before. But I think there are challenges as well, right? I think it was a little easier for us. I think the point you made about the trajectory is very right. I'm not quite sure whether the trajectory will be quite the same as it was for us. I think for us it was largely about being in the right place at the right time, in addition to doing things well and working hard and all of it, which is always important. But so while the opportunities for the next generation are greater, more diverse, and I believe the next generation is far, far more focused and career oriented than someone like me at least ever was, I think it's tougher for them. I think the uncertainties in which they operate in are far, far higher. The environment is much more difficult, the levels, it's much more competitive than it was in our time.
Talking about not being career minded, Roopa, you joined Crisil because you wanted a break in Bangalore. Since then you've always travelled also with your husband, you know, in different postings. That's not something that ambitious women relate to these days. They think that it's work and it's not the balancing act. How important was this balancing act in your own career growth?
To be quite honest, I would say that for the first 14-15 years of my career, I wouldn't really call myself an ambitious person, or I wouldn't really call myself a career-oriented person. It's not that I was seeking any kind of balance. I was just really enjoyed what I was doing. I loved the company that I work for, and I never really thought about what all of this means for my career. The thing that was always important for me, though, was to do everything that I did really, really well. And particularly focus on doing things well that others couldn't do. So all along, I think I was a good analyst. I would say I was one of the an above average analyst. But was I the best analyst in Crisil? I would not say that at all. Far from it. We had and we continue to have so many excellent and so many bright people. So I think my focus was always on doing things really well that I could do differently from others. But for the first 15-16 years of my career, to be very candid, I wouldn't really say I ever thought about where is my career going or where do I want to get in life and do I want to be CEO of Crisil someday? No. Women are driven, they are focused, they are more ambitious. I think in many cases I've seen women who are more ambitious than the men, and that's nice to see.
Roopa Kudva, who's a product of IIM Ahmedabad, joined Crisil in 1992, and since then she has helped guide it into becoming one of the top rating agencies in India. Roopa believes the turning point in her career came when she decided to be ambitious and pitch for the job of the Chief Rating Officer at Crisil.
I think the turning point came, the first real stirring of ambition from a career perspective. And there was always ambition to do things really well. The passion for excellence was always there, but the ambition to do well in my career came when I came back from a secondment to Standard & Poor's in Paris. I spent a couple of years there, and I came back to India in 2000. And when I came back, the position of the Chief Rating Officer in the company, which was obviously a very coveted and important job in Crisil, because at that point we were only a rating agency, was vacant. And I looked at that and I thought about it, and I said, you know, I think I could do this job. And what I did was I put 4 slides together in what today looks to me like a highly amateurish PowerPoint presentation, and actually went across and met Ravi Mohan at an offsite in Goa. We were all there at an offsite in Goa, and I went and told him that why this company needs a chief rating officer and why I think I could do the job better than anybody else. And he said, great, I've heard you, and sounds good, and just leave it with me. And I did leave it with him, and then nothing happened for 6 months after that. And then 6 months later, he called me and said, do you remember you came and met me 6 months ago? We're really happy to offer you this position.
In many senses, going out and demanding what you think you deserve is also a leap of faith that people do. Do you think women step back from that, Roopa, in your own experience, that women are great at doing what they're doing, but they're not demanding enough?
I think so. I think people hold back from really asking for the big jobs. Once they're given a job, I think they do it very well, but most people hold back. And I think the attitude of most people, particularly women, is two kinds of perceptions. The first perspective they have is, if I'm sitting and doing a great job, somebody will see it and somebody will recognize it and somebody will reward me. So the onus of managing my career is not on me, but it's somebody else's problem. Whereas I think the reality, and particularly at senior levels, this might be true in the early stages of your career, but at very senior levels, I think the onus of managing your career and communicating what you want and explaining why you would be good for doing a particular job or a particular role, I think lies more with you than on others. And I think people continue in that old mode, saying my boss will look out for me or somebody will look out for me, and don't invest enough in asking for the jobs. That is one perspective. The second perspective, I think, is that women have is that little bit of hesitation. I don't know whether it's cultural or social conditioning. I think it is social conditioning. Despite the tremendous progress that women have made in the last 20, 30 years in this country, there's still a holding back that happens. That's changing, but not changing fast enough.
Tell me something, you've seen various batches of women come into the workplace, you've interacted with many. What's the change that you see in women as they come in?
I think the women entering the workforce today are very different from the women entering the workforce 20 years ago. Starting off just with the numbers, right? So you have today, from a situation where less than 10% of the graduating class in a business school was women, you have a situation where 1/3 of the graduating class in most business schools in the country today comprise women, which makes a very big difference to attitudes because your cohort is larger. Secondly, the drive, focus, ambition and will to succeed today in women is wonderful to see. Women are driven, they are focused, they are more ambitious. I think in many cases I've seen women who are more ambitious than the men, and that's nice to see. The third thing that has changed many is family support. I think today a working woman finds it easier to get support from her family and extended family for managing the home and managing the children than happened 20 years ago. Because today I think society accepts the fact that women need to work, and they need to work not just for economic reasons but to fulfill themselves and achieve their true potential as human beings. So I think there's a better appreciation and better acceptance of working women in middle class families and in societies as a whole compared to the past.
But overall statistics show, Roopa, that the number of women who fall off the workforce between the junior to mid-level is very, very high. What can organizations do to actually have a policy which allows women to flower over a period of time?
I think the first thing that companies need to do is to send the message very, very strongly to women that for us, it does not matter whether you're a man or whether you're a woman. I think sending the signal of true gender neutrality is what women really want. I don't think women are asking for special favors. I don't think they're asking for special privileges. Yes, they're asking for some understanding and maybe some time off, particularly when they want to start a family. But other than that, I don't think women ask for any special favors or any special benefits. All they really ask for and all they really want is an environment where they feel that I'm not disadvantaged in any way because I'm a woman. So therefore, What matters to a woman is that it shouldn't matter that she's a woman. And I think fostering that culture is very important in organizations. And I think right from day one in Crisil, that has been the environment that we've tried to create. We may not have, I wouldn't say that we have the best of policies in terms of women-friendly policies, but I think we've done a very good job of actually making sure that we deal with individual women and in a manner that makes them want to stay on for many years. And with the result today that we have a situation in the company where, of course, I as the CEO am a woman, but our largest P&L in the company is being led by a woman. She reports into me. Our largest business in terms of headcount is being led by a woman. And these two women together control 50% of the workforce in the company. If you're doing something because you choose to do it, I think it doesn't matter whether you're working or not working or becoming a leader or not becoming a leader, as long as it's coming out of your own conscious choice.
Back at your career, as a woman, what are the 2-3 things that you have learnt along the way that have allowed you to succeed, Roopa? Or is that also gender neutral?
As a leader, I would say what it takes to be a leader and what it takes to get to the top and stay at the top is gender neutral. But I think women have more of the skills, naturally have more of the skills that are required to be a leader in today's world. And let me explain. So if you look at what I think or what my learnings have been, particularly during the last decade of my career, is that in order to be successful, I think it requires, number one, the ability to manage multiple stakeholders. As you're growing in your career, all you're really bothered about is the team that reports into you, which might be a small team, and maybe the person you report into, and of course the customer. That is your whole world. When you get to the top, suddenly out of nowhere, you have these whole new set of stakeholders who are popping up, and these could include the board. They include the shareholders, they include the regulators and policy makers, they include the media, and you have to deal with all these stakeholders at the same time. So if you're taking a crucial decision as a leader, I think it's very important to be able to anticipate how each one of these stakeholders is going to react and manage them proactively. Something which you never have to do in the early stages of your career. I think that's a very important skill. The second skill, I think, is communication. Today, companies are becoming global. Crisil is an example. We have offices all across the world. Companies are dealing with a younger workforce, which demands more frequent feedback, which demands to know the bigger picture and the strategy of the company much more than we did when I was in the initial stages of my career. And therefore, I think it is important for leaders to be able to communicate well and communicate frequently. And the third, I think, is the ability to be decisive. I think take into account all opinions, listen to everybody, look at the data, look at the facts, but ultimately bring in your business judgment and take that call. I think these three, I would say, have been the biggest learnings. Why do I say women are better suited to doing some of these things? I think some of these things like empathy, a consultative approach, taking people along, communicating, comfort with ambiguity, and doing many things at the same time, are traits that come more naturally to women. So I think once you get there, I think women have an easier time probably with dealing with these 2 or 3 things that I talked about.
It's about getting there. I think you made the point that once you get to a particular threshold, then your own momentum takes you forward. Do you think women don't make the effort to get there? Because the other tendency that happens, and I'm sure it's happened in your peer group also. You're married to a very successful man. You've got, you've done what you had to do. I mean, if you could give up, you could say this battle is not worth fighting and walk off. Do you see a lot of women doing that? And do you think that's also a difference between men and women?
I think women not asking enough for jobs or position or challenges, I think is an issue. There's no doubt about it. I think they tend to hold back. They tend to hold back in asking for specific jobs or positions or roles. I don't see women holding back as much as before in asking for promotions. So, women will come and ask all the time, why was I not promoted, and why was X and Y and Z promoted? You get that a lot these days. But you still haven't got to a stage when people are coming and saying, I want to take up that. The company is looking at this new area, I want to go and do that. You don't see enough of that. If you give them that position or that job or the responsibility, they will do it really well. So I think that is an issue. We also see, I don't know whether I would call it a trend, but anecdotally, I personally know a lot of women who have decided to stop working. And not because they are finding it difficult to balance anything or manage children. And many of these women are women whose children have grown up. And they've decided enough is enough. And it's this whole thing about let me go, and now I worked, I've been there, done that. Let me now go and do other things. Let me travel, let me do gardening, let me cultivate a hobby, and let me do that. So it's not they're going out because of because of pressure of any kind. And I think that's fine too. I think the key thing is that women must have a choice and must be able to exercise choice. If you're doing something because you choose to do it, I think it doesn't matter whether you're working or not working or becoming a leader or not becoming a leader, as long as it's coming out of your own conscious choice. And I'm not sure that happens all the time.
Roopa, last set of questions. Looking back at your career, what would your advice be to a Roopa who passed out of IIM Ahmedabad in 1986? Would you have done anything differently?
Honestly, I don't think so. And I think the fact, in many ways, I think the fact that my career didn't matter to me in the sense that I was not very intent on a career goal in that sense, but was very clear about the fact that whatever I did, I wanted to do really well, I think helped me be more relaxed about my job and I put less pressure on myself, and I think in the long run that is what helps to bring out the best in you and helps you really succeed. So I wouldn't change that at all. And in fact, I'm telling women in Crisil that all the time. Don't think of a career in terms of 1 year or 2 years or when I get my next promotion, or it's good to get feedback, but it's not necessary to get feedback every 10 days or 15 days on every single thing that you're doing. If you just step back a bit, be passionate about what you're doing, focus on excellence, keep a positive attitude, but most of all, if you just enjoy what you do, I think women can be more relaxed, and I think in the long run it will actually help them do better. And I actually tell people it doesn't matter, how does it matter if in a 30-40 year career you miss 1 or 2 or 3 promotions here and there. It doesn't matter, it's a long-term game, and in the long term, quality, excellence and true worth I think always comes out.
That's great advice to all women. Thank you so much, Roopa.
Thank you.